Imagine a massive, global supercomputer. For years, it operated as a single, fully unified mainframe. A bit slow, sure, but completely intact. Well, today, we're unpacking a massive debate in the Web3 space. We're looking at Ethereum's ambitious plan to scale that supercomputer and asking the big question, is this scaling strategy actually breaking the whole thing apart? So, as we look at the landscape here in 2026, we really have to ask ourselves, is Ethereum's incredibly complex scaling strategy fragmenting its everyday users? This is literally the central debate right now in the crypto space. People are wondering, is Ethereum still the undisputed world computer, or has this complex multi-layered approach completely fractured its dominance and just alienated the average person? Let's dive into this explainer and find out. The absolute heart of this debate comes down to a massive paradigm shift. Think of the past as a severely congested monolith. You had a single blockchain trying to process execution, data, and security all at the exact same time. It was basically like a massive toll plaza, backing up traffic for miles and miles. But today, it's shifting into more of a modular highway. Now, the argument against this new architecture is that pushing users onto these fragmented Layer 2 networks creates an absolute user experience nightmare. But, the counterview is that these upgrades successfully scaled the network into an incredibly efficient global settlement layer, and they did it without sacrificing even an ounce of security. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to start right at the base layer. Boom, 30%. By early 2026, over 30% of the entire ETH supply is locked up in staking. Just think about that for a second. That is a massive, mathematically enforced security wall protecting the network. It creates an economic barrier that makes the base layer virtually unhackable. It's absolutely crucial to understanding how this whole ecosystem functions. Now, obviously, Ethereum didn't just wake up one day as this complex modular network. It's been a relentless march of highly technical upgrades. You probably remember the merge back in 2022, right? That shifted us to a much greener proof-of-stake model. Then came Denkan in 2024, which drastically reduced Layer 2 data costs. And that ultimately set the stage for the massive architectural shifts we've seen recently with Pectra in 2025 and Fusaka in 2026. Let's actually zero in on that Pectra step within this blueprint for global scale, because it's super important. You see, before Pectra, the network was literally suffocating under sheer message volume. And why was that happening? Well, because every single 32 ETH staked by a validator required its own independent node to communicate constantly across the network. It was just creating this completely unsustainable bottleneck of network chatter. So how did Pectra solve this mess? 2048 ETH. The upgrade raised the maximum validator cap from a mere 32 all the way up to 2048. Now, I know some critics looked at that massive jump and immediately said, wait a minute, isn't this just a centralized handout to Wall Street institutions so they can pool their spot ETF money? But honestly, the engineering reality is entirely different. This was a strict mechanical necessity. It allowed entities to consolidate their processing, which drastically cut down that suffocating network chatter so the chain could actually run faster and safer. And what that processing consolidation creates is profoundly important. It yields what experts are calling a trillion-dollar economic security and ultrasound money. Because Ethereum actually destroys or burns a bit of ETH every single time the network is used. And when you pair that with that massive staked wall of defense we talked about, you get an incredibly strong deflationary asset. It's a base layer that global institutions trust implicitly simply because the security budget is impenetrable. But here is the counterpoint in our debate today, and I gotta say, it's a highly valid one. If the base layer is now this ultra-secure premium playground for institutional whales and definitive settlement, well, everyday users are basically forced to flee. Layer 2 essentially acts as this giant funnel, pulling everyday execution activity away from the expensive mainnet, just so normal people can afford to make a simple transaction. Which naturally leads us to what many are calling the UX nightmare. Yes, you move to rollups to save on fees, but what happens when you actually get there? Suddenly, you're bridging assets and juggling multiple wallets across fragmented Layer 2 ecosystems like Arbitrum, Base, or Optimism. It can genuinely feel a bit like carrying your money through a series of complex border checkpoints. You pay a toll, you switch networks, and you just sit there holding your breath, hoping your transaction doesn't get stuck in transit. So does this friction drive the average user away to simpler monolithic chains? Well, the Ethereum ecosystem didn't just sit back and ignore this friction. Enter the Fusaka upgrade in May 2026, which brought a true data revolution called Peer DAS. That stands for Peer Data Availability Sampling. Basically, it drastically expanded how much raw data the Ethereum network could process at once. By distributing data efficiently without burdening individual nodes, Fusaka essentially solved that final data bottleneck. And this is a real game changer because it allows these Layer 2 networks to scale almost indefinitely.
And the results of that data expansion? Absolutely staggering. Look at this cost collapse. We're talking about execution fees dropping from cents down to 1/10 of a cent on Layer 2. To put that into perspective, because there's now so much extra room on the base layer for data, rollups can bundle thousands of off-chain transactions, compress them, and post just the mathematical cryptographic proofs back to the mainnet. So users get lightning-fast performance, but because those proofs are locked into Layer 1, they still inherit that impenetrable security we talked about earlier. Best of both worlds, right?
Now, what about that fragmentation concern? Are users really just scattering to the wind and abandoning the ecosystem? Actually, the data tells a completely different story. We are seeing a staggering $47 billion in total value locked spread across these networks. Liquidity isn't just fragmenting, it's unifying in a massive way through better cross-chain infrastructure. I mean, 47 billion absolutely dwarfs any competing Layer 1 blockchain out there. It's not even close. So when you zoom out and look at the whole shebang together, you get this 2026 modular architecture. And make no mistake, this wasn't an accident, it was highly deliberate. You have your Layer 1 at the bottom, providing unshakable economic security and maintaining the canonical state. It basically acts as the ultimate definitive record of truth. And stacked seamlessly right on top, your Layer 2s handle the high-speed, low-cost daily execution. The pieces of the supercomputer have specialized. The ultimate goal of all these years of development has been to solve the blockchain trilemma. It's like a giant puzzle. How do you achieve massive scalability, decentralization, and security all at once? Ethereum has undeniably succeeded in becoming a highly secure, deflationary settlement layer for the globe. But as we wrap up this explainer, we still have to weigh that massive institutional success against the very real learning curve that everyday people face when navigating this new modular reality. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. Is Ethereum today a decentralized cloud functioning perfectly as an interconnected network of networks? Or has the user experience become a fragmented crown? The underlying technology has evolved beautifully for sure, but the ultimate fate of this massive ecosystem depends entirely on whether it can make this complex architecture feel totally invisible and effortless to the everyday user. So what do you think?